Welcome to 45 South tonight on Wednesday 17th of September. I'm Terry Kent. Bit of a change round. Kelly will be with you tomorrow evening. Tonight's news brought to you by Alan McClay at Ray White Real Estate. We begin with the headlines from the Oamaru Mail, and my first headline for you is Irrigation Loan Decision Expected Today. And the Waitaki District Council is expected to make a decision regarding a proposed loan to the North Otago Irrigation Company today, but a former councillor is asking for it to be delayed. And Helen Stead said that she had written to Council requesting a full disclosure of the loan and has asked for public consultation on the matter before Council proceeded any further. You can't extend the loan when you haven't got information on the original loan available publicly, she said. I believe it's in the public interest and needs to be addressed. However, the proposed loan has been cut by $5 million to just $17 million, which will be considered by Council today. Mrs. Stead had sought the information on the loan from Council under the Official Information Act, and last week Council supplied her with some of this information. Waitaki Mayor Gary Kircher said that the Council had participated in more public consultation than they were required to do when making an investment decision. Consultation has been happening, we've received submissions, and there will be people speaking at a forum today. Further through, on a more national basis of the electoral scene, voters unfazed by .com's moment. With the general election just days away, the Oamaru Mail took to the streets to ask people whether or not Kim.com's moment of truth would influence the way they voted. People seemed pretty set on who they were going to vote for in this year's election and did not take much out of .com's revelations on Monday night. That involved him claiming that everyone in the country was being spied upon, and 20 people asked whether or not .com's claims would influence their voting, and the majority of them said no, and they'd already made up their minds on who they were going to vote for, while others simply shook their heads and walked away. Further down the page, it's 7 penguins found dead at the creek mouth, and the Oamaru Blue Penguin Colony will have trouble investigating the deaths of 7 penguins on Monday because there's not enough information, research scientist Philippa Agnew says. Members of the public found the penguins at the mouth of the Oamaru Creek on Monday night, and she said that the circumstances of the bird's death were unknown, but staff members were in the process of finding out more information by talking to the people who found the penguins. Apparently, a few birds got caught up in some wire, but I don't know the circumstances, so I don't know if that's the reason they died. They did not have any wounds and may have just ended up near the wire. I really just don't know. If it's due to some sort of interference, then it's disappointing and a shame, but I don't want to point the finger, as it could have been natural. Now, I'm going to be back with you shortly with your weather and program for tonight. And here it is, the 45 South Daily Weather Report. And for today, Wednesday, at 1 p.m, the temperature was 10 degrees, with an overnight low expected of 3. For tomorrow, Thursday, the high is expected to be 12, with an overnight low of 5. The forecast is for early low cloud, then high cloud, with a nor'east strong for a time. Our sunrise and sunset: the sunrise 6:32 a.m. and the sunset 6:28 p.m. Tides for Thursday are the high tides of 11:29 a.m. and 11:54 p.m. The low tides 5:19 a.m. and 5:33 p.m. Now, before I move on to the program, there is an apology. We ran a recent video of somebody we know very well, and we got his name wrong in the captions. It was, of course, Eden Bradfield that was playing the violin for us at a recent concert. So we've already apologised directly to Eden, and we have noted our little error. Sorry about that. And now moving on to this program for Wednesday the 17th of September. They are both archive items that Josh and I have had a look and think you might like to see. And that is, up first, Jackie Webby interviews Davy Hughes, known as Mr. Swazi, And then second, we have Davy Hughes' presentation that he made at the Bryden Hotel. So up first, over to Jackie Webby interviewing Mr. Swazi.
Hi, I'm Jackie Webby. I'm here with Mr. Swazi, Davy Hughes, adventurer extraordinaire. Davy, you're originally the boy from Wainui, Oamaru, and you're a mix of all sorts of bloodlines. What drives you? What's Davy Hughes' secret weapon?
What drives me? I think that you know, this may get a little bit deep, but what drives me is I want to change the world. And so many people think, you know, changing the world is really hard. But you know what? To change the world, you only have to change one small thing. And that small thing may just be an attitude. And if you can change people's attitude towards, you know, the way they view this country, you know, I have love for this country. And a lot of men struggle with that word. But, you know, I really love this country. Some people will say, I've got passion for this country. But passion's a one-night stand. And love is a wee bit deeper. So, yeah, I'm trying to change the world. That's what gets me up in the mornings.
So, you're one man with your Swazi brand behind you. So, do you believe that you've got the capability, that you've got the energy, the resources to go there?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to have that self-belief as well. You know, you've got to have that confidence. Yeah, sometimes perhaps I'm a little bit over cocky. Sometimes I'm outspoken during, you know, times when I shouldn't be. I should just, you know, keep my head down, because this is another great Kiwi pastime, is chopping people's heads off. You know, if you raise your head above the parapet, someone's going to kick it or cut it off. But I think that I can continue doing what I'm doing. Making clothing in New Zealand is a huge challenge, and that for me is not about it's not about a business, and it's not about bottom line. It's about people. And I think if you have a look at my book Untamed, in the opening pages, it's Hei Tangata, Hei Tangata, Hei Tangata. It is people. It is people. It is people. And I think so many economists and you know, politicians as well are talking about the success of New Zealand, about going forward, about being, you know, on par with Australia. And I measure success quite differently. I measure success as the happiness of a nation and the respect that we have as individuals for our fellow Kiwis is huge. And I don't want to see us lose that because we're so driven by producing a profit, producing a bottom line. And I think that we are starting to lose a bit of it, especially, you know, you just look at what happened with the rolling stock that could have been made in Dunedin, should have been made in Dunedin, and it wasn't. And I feel for those guys that lost their jobs and lost, you know, it's a skill set which is disappearing. But someone said, no, bottom line, we can perhaps, you know, save some money. It's not about saving money, it's about saving a country, for God's sake. Yeah,
because you started Swazi in Levin, and you've kept it in New Zealand, haven't you? And is that part of the Davy Hughes pride in the Kiwi land?
It is, and as I said, it's a challenge. And you know, it used to be a challenge on a yearly basis. I'd sit down and say, you know, this year it's going to be something to keep this thing going here in New Zealand, and then it became a monthly basis. And now every single week I go to work and I think, you know, to keep this here in New Zealand, I'm going to have to be on my game, and that's tiring. Sometimes it's lonely, because so many other manufacturers have disappeared, have gone, and you feel like you're out there on your own almost. But then you'll come to places like Oamaru and you'll meet other manufacturers who are doing the same thing, who are keeping things New Zealand made. And together we talk about it, and we talk about what that does for the people of the region, the provinces, because I think that's where the strength of New Zealand lays. And they talk about the same thing, no matter where I am in the country. They talk about people with self-esteem, people with respect for themselves and for their fellow man, and how much that means in a town, you know, like Oamaru, like Levin, you know, like Waimate. It's huge.
Because when Swazi first came out, 20 years ago or so?
Yeah, 17 years ago.
You were pretty much an upstart, weren't you, amongst some big iconic names in clothing in New Zealand.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, let's face it, you look different, you know, than the sort of the suits and the, you know, those sort of people that would have been presenting other brands.
We were hillbillies. We were hillbillies, absolutely. There's no other word for it, you know. Now, strangely enough, the very first foray into the market was export. We went to Melbourne. We did a show, Maggie and I, and we were at the show with a lot of those big players that you're mentioning who are not here anymore, and they all had, you know, $20,000, $30,000 booths, and we had a table, we had a trestle, and we'd get up in the morning from our hotel and we'd steal the sheet off the hotel bed, and we would go down to our booth and we'd sort of put it as flat as we could on our trestle table and put this little typewritten sign that said Swazi Apparel New Zealand, and for the first 3 or 4 days, you know, they sniggered at us, and we were, you know, but as well as being hillbillies, we had one thing in our favour. We were so innocent and naive, and we didn't know that people were looking and laughing at us. But the last day of the show, they opened it to the public, and the public came in and they saw what we had, and we'd taken over 60 jackets and 60 pants, and within 2 hours they were all gone. And I said, you know what? People get what we make.
Yeah,
let's go back
You're
to
on
New
our
Zealand
way.
and let's get cracking.
Yeah.
So times are tough at the moment. How is Swazi going? And what are you planning for the company for the future?
You know, times are tough, and I think that, you know, the economy, I see a lift, and it's going to be a huge lift when it does come. But for us, it's a matter of staying true to our principles. You know, we often have, you know, advice from people saying, look, make half the gear in China and half of it in New Zealand, and sometimes, you know, that is so tempting, and you think, yeah, you know, at least then that way we can, you know, we'll be absolutely guaranteed of our survival. But the way I look at things is this: it's like a mountain, and it's tough to climb a mountain, really, really challenging. But when you get to the top of the mountain, shit, the view's good.
Yeah.
You can't get that view from the flatland.
Yeah. Now, your book that you've Untamed, is it your first? Is it the last?
Yeah, it's my first book, and I thought, oh, you know, this is going to be easy. This will take 2 weekends and a Wednesday afternoon. But a year later, I've never been so exhausted. And I finished this book, and I thought, oh, that's it. I do not want to write one more word. I don't even want to sign a cheque. I've had it. Throw all the pens away, you know. And I think it was exhausting just because I wanted to provide something other than just, you know, the current now. I wanted a little bit of history that went with it. But also I wanted it to be like a smorgasbord that people could eat, and they could sort of, you know, I always envisaged reading it in bed, and you read 1 or 2 chapters and you put it down, you know, because the wife is saying, turn the light off. And she doesn't say that, but yeah. The next day you can go back and think, well, I don't want to read the following chapters. I want to jump 6 chapters ahead and read about this trip, you know, to Montana or to whatever place, or I want to read that recipe or that poem or look at those images. And so you could jump forward and backwards.
So you've shared a lot of memories in it, Dave, and also there's the recipes in there. Is this the softer side of Davy Hughes?
Yeah, I am a softie.
Yeah,
I am a softie. And I love to cook.
Yeah.
Absolutely love to cook. Yeah. And zebra livers is my favourite. You know,
Now, you've travelled the world and you've had some amazing adventures. If you had to say that was my most favourite, what would it be?
Oh, favourite adventure. You know, the best place in the world is home. That's first and foremost. But did I say foremost? Yeah, I did. Okay, 3 mice. And you know, the best hunt, if you like, the place I like to hunt is Southern Alps of New Zealand, hunting tahr, and I think that's the sport of kings, absolutely. And we don't want to bomb them all up out of helicopters either, because the tahr is a magnificent animal, but it's more than just the animal; it's the environment, it's the place where you go to hunt them. I think that's very special and very spiritual. But the most amazing adventure, I think it would have to be. The one that really is uplifting to me every time I recall it is I went to dog sled school, and in the place called Karasjok in northern Norway, and to drive a set of dogs or to mush a set of dogs, it's like flying. It's like you can fly, and it was the most amazing experience. So it involved animals, but I didn't shoot anything. But it was a fantastic adventure. I loved it.
Now, with your Tiger Trust, what was the... okay, they're endangered, they're severely endangered. Was that the driver behind setting that up, to tell the world that these beautiful animals are endangered and we need to be aware before finally there's none?
I think the world knew that they were endangered, but, you know, so many people say, we should save the tiger, we should save, you know, the elephants. But they're prepared not to get off their settees and sofas and do anything about it. Mm. And so I thought, well, at least if I can, you know, do something about it, then inside myself I'll feel like, you know, I've tried to make this a better world. I've tried to change the world in some small way. And perhaps then when I'm lying on my deathbed, I can think, you gave it a good nudge, mate.
So you've got the book, you've got the TV show. Where next for Davey Hughes?
Get a TV show on TV is the first bloody thing, you know. And it's a wee bit different, and there's not a lot of cooking, and there's not a lot of fat people in England, you know, fighting over ice cream containers. So, you know, is it going to make good TV? That's the first thing. I think it'll make fantastic TV, and along with the book, you know, my measurement of success for this TV series and my measurement of success for my book is, should one young person crawl outside of their Xbox and say, wow, there's a life out there, there's adventure to be had out there, I can go and challenge myself, then that for me is my measurement of success. One person.
Would you see a day when you gathered up, say, half a dozen young Kiwis and took them with you on an adventure?
No.
No.
I don't mind taking my kids, and you know, I do take you know, other
friends
friends of my kids, but I'm not a guide, and maybe I'm not that patient, and there's such a huge amount of responsibility to go and do that with half a dozen kids. Although in saying that, for the last 6 or 7 years, we have been bringing out with the assistance of you know, Leitham Valley down in Southland, which is, you know, a game ranch down there. We've been bringing out 6 or 7 young Americans from disadvantaged homes to New Zealand, where we teach them about you know, survival, about game management and first aid, firearm safety, all of those things. So you know, we've got programs in place.
Now, you talked about your next adventure, which is on the horseback hunting. Tell us about that.
That's to the Wrangell Mountains in Alaska, my 15th trip to Alaska. So I feel almost as if I should become a citizen of that state. My wife wonders if I have another family there. But I'm not a great horseman, but I'm really looking forward to, you know, 12 days just riding on a horse, up as far as the horses will get us, and then to get to the Alpine area, obviously we have to walk from there. And we'll take the film crew along. We don't think that this will be a show that would be for TV, but we'll still film it. Just, I think, you know, maybe one day we'll put out a hunting show as well. Who knows?
Great stuff, brilliant. Sally, you got anything?
Yeah, no, good.
No. Davey, thanks.
Talk a lot, eh? Chaka. So an incredibly talented man, especially when it came to running an organisation, running men. His skill was unbelievable with men. Him and I bonded extremely well, perhaps because we both had a love of one thing, and that was vodka. If the balloon had gone up, would you have pushed the red button? And he didn't answer me at first. He didn't answer me at all, and perhaps because he was lying upside down, comatose in the snow. But the following morning around breakfast, he called me over and said, double. He said, you need to know something, come outside. So I went outside and he said, the answer to your question is no. I would not have pushed the red button unless we had been under attack. And that restored in me quite a bit of faith in humanity. I thought that's absolutely awesome. And then he went on to say, but you must understand, you cannot disappear. And I said, glad mate, you know, your secret is with me, safe, locked in here, in half of Oamaru. So when you leave, please don't, turn that camera off. So tigers, what an amazing animal. The Siberian tiger, or Oamaru tiger, is large, but not the largest of the tigers. The Bengal is larger. But look at the size of the head, look at the size of the paws. Unbelievable. This gentleman here, Johnny Goodrich, he's an American. He'd been up there about 12 years. And so we capture the tigers in a snare and then shoot them with a tranquilizer gun. And then, in this case here, Johnny was taking blood for DNA, and then he took a little tooth sample and then a GPS collar was put on the tiger as well. Interesting thing here, because I often get asked, you're a bit of a, or told, you're a bit of a hypocrite, Husey. They are the most amazing predator I have ever come across. And certainly for me, the most amazing animal as well, because when a tiger looks at you, he strips you absolutely bare and looks at your soul, and it's just like, I've never even had a woman do that. And they cut right through, and it's like, oh my God, and you're mesmerised, you can't move. It's an awesome feeling and a fantastic animal. I think kiwis are very practical, so I came home, I chatted it through with Maggie, my wife, and we said, well, let's set up a trust, and we set up the Siberian Tiger Project. And then we had some events where we raised money, and we sent over four-wheel drives to the biologist, to you. This gentleman in the middle here, Dale McQuell, just recently has been saying how well it's been working having a vehicle, because they are saving tigers. Because the vehicles up there, they get such a pounding and such a hiding, and they're antiquated anyway. They pulled it off and they printed it out, and the headlight said, that's not my that's a cashew nut. They put it back on, they said, no, that's your head. I've got this real weird shaped head, which is kind of cool because it means no one can steal my hat. But it is pretty warm, and I love the boots too. What do you reckon about the boots? You kind of think that a guy that wears boots on the outside of his jeans is a puff-made boots. He was a farmer, and when he retired, he thought, bugger it, I'm going to buy myself a set of alligator custom-made boots. So he bought them on the internet, and they arrived at the post office, and he went into town to pick them up, and he just absolutely loved them. Put them on first thing, drove back out to the farm, walked into the kitchen, and said to his missus, what do you reckon? And she looked at him and she said, nothing's different, John. Oh, God, that pissed him off. He was so frustrated. He went outside, thought about it, stripped all his clothes off. Standing there, stark naked, put his boots back on, walked back into the kitchen and says, oh, what do you reckon now? She looked at him, she said, well, your penis is hanging down. It was hanging down last week, it was hanging down this morning, and it's hanging down now. He said, my penis is hanging down because he is looking at my alligator boots. Quick as a flash, she said, you should have bought a hat, John. Bought a hat. So I kind of cover it with a hat and a boot. People have actually said, it's a jack-up that you're on that program. But it's not. And the thing is that most of my travels to hunt in the Northern Hemisphere take place in their hunting season, which is fall, the end of the New Zealand year. And that's also the time that they film the Border Patrol program. So you're going in and out of the airport at the same time they have their crew there. And the other thing is, I don't know if you realise, when you're coming back into New Zealand on a flight, you're on a computer list that MAC and Customs are looking at while you're still in the air. So they're looking through, and anyone that's of interest to them has a flag. So they'll just look through it and they'll go, oh yeah, okay, arsonist, yeah, serial killer, oh, the Swazi guy, okay, we'll pick on him when he comes back home. This is me coming back from Russia, coming back through Incheon and Seoul, Korea, and so this is how I end up coming through New Zealand customs. And when I left Vladivostok, it was minus 38. And so, I felt appropriately dressed. But when I arrived in Auckland, I hadn't realised that it was going to be warm. It was 31 degrees and humid. And so I was walking along going, fuck, it's hot. Well, I glanced into a window on my way through to customs. I thought, yeah, maybe hot, but you still look cool. So I'm waiting there at customs, and my luggage is going around the carousel, and we built these specialised Swazi bags so I can sort of pick them out. And then here's one that's got a rifle. Yeah, here's another one that's got some skins and some horns and bits and pieces in it. But get them all together like that. And there's this beautiful young customs lady comes over and says, excuse me, sir, are you visiting New Zealand as a tourist, or are you here to see family and friends? What's your reason for being in New Zealand? Business. Well, I need to see your passport. Now, I wasn't a Kiwi then. I wasn't a New Zealand citizen. I was still travelling on an EU passport when I was one of those lovely red ones. So I pulled it out and I gave it to her, and she flipped through it, and she saw the returning residence visa. She went, oh, lovely, thank you. And I said, "Spaceable." Put it back, and I'm wheeling my trolley away. I'd only got about 10 yards, and the guy jumps out in front of me and says, "Just a moment, please, sir. I need to ask you, are you here visiting New Zealand as a business person, or are you here on a holiday? What's your reason for being in our fair country, please?" I said, "Business." He said, "Well, I need to see your passport." Yay. So I give it over to him, and he flips it through, and he finds the visa again, and says, "Oh, yeah, thank you." I go, "Spaceable." Yeah. Now I wheel my trolley and I think, this is getting thin. This is wearing on me a little bit now. Something's weird. And I'm just about ready to go through math, and here comes the tallest customs officer I've ever seen in my life. He's about 6'7", bright red hair, pimples, young. He says, "Just a moment, please." I go, "What is it?" He says, "I just need to ask you, sir, are you here visiting New Zealand as a tourist? Are you here to see some friends, or what's your reason for being here?" I said, "It is business." He says, "Well, I need to see your passport." Oh, man. So I pull my passport out, and he reaches to grab it, and just as he reaches to grab it, I pulled it back. And I looked at him, and I could see the confusion in his face. And I could hear his mind ticking over, and it was saying, "That didn't happen." So I put it straight back out. And he goes to grab it, and I pull it out. I can see anger in his eyes. So I put it straight back out, and he grabs it this time. And look at this thing. Pull him down. "Don't fuck with me." And he went, "Ah!" And I went, "Oh!" And I just lost the plot. And I took my really cool mink hat off, took my Oakleys off, and I said, "Mate, you can't do that. You're a New Zealand customs officer. You're wearing a badge. You're wearing a uniform. Don't do that when people come into the country. Don't go, ah." And he says, "But you scared me, mate." Christ. So I walk along, I'm thinking, this is not good. And I come around the corner, and here's a guy sitting on a chair just laughing. There's tears rolling down his eyes. And I know this chap. It's Mark Cross. And Mark pretty well runs New Zealand Customs at Auckland Airport. And I said, "What was all of that about?" And he just wiped his eyes. He says, "Oh, mate, you can't believe this." He said, they're all new. It was their first week on the job. And he says, "We're sitting in the office, and I'm looking through the screen, seeing who's coming in on this flight from Korea." He goes, yeah. "Oh, Davey Hughes." So I saw them sitting over there drinking a cup. I said, "You three, come here. This guy here, we suspect has been a Russian mafioso. I want you to go out, one at a time. Crystal, you'll go first. Hit him up and ask him what his reason is for being in New Zealand. Be careful. He is dangerous. Watch yourself and do not provoke him." Okay, boss. And off they go. And he says, then I'm watching the screen. I see you come on, see you come off the plate. And he says, "Oh." And then you've got that wampy head on, those glasses, that long coat. And I was sitting there thinking, "Oh, this is too beautiful." And my wife Maggie absolutely refuses to come through customs with me. And sort of, we'll come to the point, and she'll say, "Right. So I'm on the plane coming back from LA, and I've got my little buddy here, and he wants to get out and have a bit of fun." So I walk down the plane, it's that magic moment. We've all had dinner, the lights have gone down, right on the vinegar stroke. And as I'm walking through the 747, there's not one single adult on the plane who actually sees me, but every kid's going, like this. And I get down the back of the plane, and I'm just sort of down there doing a few stretches so you don't get deep vein thrombone or whatever it is. And along comes the hostess, and she's got a jug of orange juice and some plastic glasses, and she says, "Excuse me, sir, would you like a glass of orange?" I said, "No, look, I wouldn't, but my little buddy, he wouldn't like to drink." "What are you doing?" And away she goes. About 30 seconds later, here they come. There's three hostesses, and right out in the front, there's Joey. There he is. And he comes up and says, "Sir, you have a live animal on the New Zealand fly?" "No, I don't."
I can see her. Is that a problem? Oh, dear sir. New Zealand's an agricultural country. Oh, you are in so much trouble. Well, I don't know about that because, I was reading the Air New Zealand ticket and it says absolutely nothing about live animals on the plane. There's nothing on your ticket. He says, oh, sir, do you like rubber gloves or something? Live animal, Air New Zealand flight. I'm sorry, but I have to go. I said, hey, hang on, let me get this right. You can't bring any sort of animal back to New Zealand that's live. No. Did you hear that? I'm sorry about this, buddy. Look what you made me do, Julia! Then we went back to the crew quarters and we had an amazing party. Probably one of the best bloody flights I've had, actually, to tell you the truth. And you've been an amazing audience as well. But if I've got 2 more minutes, Okay, 2 more minutes, let's go. On the way down here, we've been giving various talks and some really cool ones to schools as well, up in the North Island and down in the South. Even though it's school holidays, kids have been coming back into school, and that's been fantastic. And at the end of the talk, you say to the kids, "Have you got any questions?" There's 30 kids in the school, 30 hands go up, and they'll ask you amazing questions, sensory questions. Or what did he taste like? What did he smell like? What did the fur feel like? Or they'll ask you, really deep and philosophical questions like, where do babies come from? And, is your hair real? And how old are you? The adults don't ask questions. So I've come up with a plan just recently to incentivise adults if they ask, questions. You can ask business questions, you can ask any question you like. But if it's a cool question, I've brought along some of the 2012 Swazi range, and you can win a garment. And I think that's pretty cool, because Swazi gear is pretty cool. So, has anyone got a cool question, or any question? Yes, sir!
Have you ever killed a lion?
Mountain lion, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've been on 4 mountain lion hunts, and really love it. It's pretty much like hunting pigs in New Zealand, but the lions they climb trees and do the hissy spitty thing. So.
Oh yeah. So you use dogs and stuff, or?
Yeah, use dogs, and they taste mountain lion backsteaks just the absolute best. Good question.
Yep.
And here's one of the new Swazi What do you do for a living, sir?
Well, I'm not a stripper, mate.
Well, if you work in an office, you could wear this as a tie. Bloody awesome, made from microfleece.
Thank you very much.
A questionable look in their eye. Let's have a lady's question.
Do you put on a fit? I mean, you obviously don't make the phone here. I think there's a lot of people
You're like in Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had pans, frying pans, and we had camp ovens.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So, and then some of those guys are just about to eat raw anyway. So, that's a pretty good question. I think they had a ladies. Yeah, I know. I'm pretty good at pulling them off. I'm not so good at putting them on. Here you go, man. I've got it right. As you can see, it's made from beautiful microfleece, 1% silk, beautiful and soft. And we made this one in camo, so no one will see it coming. Any other businesses that make things like that? So that's 2 of the idiot prizes. So has anyone else got a question? Let's have 2 more questions and then we'll go. Hello.
Do you wear those things yourself?
I said that's all you. Yeah. My job's test pilot horse, so I've got to wear them. This gentleman here, horse. When I came in, all of his mates were sitting at the table. Yeah, horse. What do you think this 40-year-old would be like horse? And I thought, People in Oamaru have got real strange fucking names. But I get a little bit nervous before I talk, and so I was in the gents having a week, and horse walk, and so he's standing at the urinal beside me, and I had a little bit of urinal envy, so I just had to sort of have a look over, and that's fine, you know, so I've got a prize for you. And a stretcher. You do any tramping or hunting, sir? Yeah. Well, if ever you get lost on the top of the ribs, you know, just strip all your clothes off, whack this on, make yourself a little bit excited, and they'll spot you from the helicopter. One more question and then we'll go. Yes, sir.
What's your next adventure?
My next adventure in about half an hour I've got to go to the tap. That'll be an adventure. Hopefully I'll be able to escape from there alive. I'm off to Alaska on the 14th or 15th of August. I've got a 12-day horseback hunt up there in the Wrangell Mountains. So, I mean, the other thing I've been doing, I have been travelling a lot in the last 2 years, is dragging a film crew around, and so in the last 2 years we've made 12 episodes all around the world, and we've been to some magnificent places. And it's not just all hunting, some of it's just been adventure and exploration. And, you know, like recently we were up on Svalbard. Has anyone heard of Svalbard? Has anyone got kids? And you watch movies? You ever watched The Golden Compass? It's a really cool movie anyway. It's about Svalbard, and it's the kingdom of the ice sphere. And it's at 78 degrees north. It's just below the North Pole. Now here's a history lesson. After the First World War, a lot of peace treaties were signed in Versailles, and one of them was the Treaty of Svalbard. Now, in that treaty, Norway was given the right to govern the archipelago of Svalbard, or Spitsbergen. But the 9 initial signatories of the treaty said, we will retain full citizenship rights for our people to go to Svalbard, to hunt, fish, trap, run businesses, own property. New Zealand was one of the first signatories. As Kiwis, we have full citizenship rights up in the Arctic. It's unbelievable. So we went up there just to film all of that. And then I took up the Kiwi flag and told everyone how I was a magnificent man from Otago who actually signed that treaty on behalf of New Zealand. And the other thing on Svalbard is the global seed vault. And on the side of a mountain, I mean, it's so cold up there. But on the side of the mountain there's this huge piece of artwork, 40, 50 metres tall, and it's like crystals, and it just glows, all different colours, yellow and green and blue, and it's a vault, and they drilled this huge tunnel into the mountain, into the permafrost, and at the end of the tunnel are 3 vaults, and in there, in these vaults, are all the production seeds of the world. Should this planet get hit by a meteor, should we blow ourselves up, the seeds are there to replant the world. And I don't know how to get there. So we filmed that. And in the past, I've only allowed, past US presidents and high-ranking European ministers to have access to the vault. But I worked on them and told them some good Kiwi lies, like, we're filming a documentary for school children. Please let us in. And they flew up from Sweden, strangely enough. It's managed by the Swedes. They flew all the way up there, and it's 800 kilometres north of Norway. They flew up and they opened the vault and allowed us to film it. So we've got all this really awesome footage of adventures, and there are, 1 or 2 hunts, but the focus is more on adventure than anything else. So I've only got 1 prize left, and you're not a North Islander, are you?
Yeah.
You are! Woohoo! Because I've only got 1 prize left, and it's a North Island prize. Woohoo! At least be able to get them to sit up. But I don't know if it'll fit or not. But I mean, if you maybe if you went for a swim across the blue or something, definitely fit up there. Here we go. We're going to go back to work now. I hope you've had a good morning. I've had a fantastic morning. And thank you. It's awesome to have been here in Oamaru. What an incredibly hospitable town. What a neat bunch of people. So, thank you. Thank you. about you, Sue?
So next year you'll try out.
Thank you. Not blind today. No. Alright, would you like anything signed now? Awesome.
Welcome back. That's bringing us to the end of Wednesday's program. The reminder, of course, of those numbers to be in touch with us. That's 027 45 South, 027 45 76 884. The email for contact is south45tv@yahoo.co.nz. The studio, of course, you know, it's in the historic Star and Garter Hotel building, and that's 17 Itchen Street. We are particularly mentioning to you, of course, that we'd like you to find and like us on Facebook. And as we're telling people, more recently, with the help of our super tech, Ken Jones, we've been able to put links up now. So if you go to our Facebook page, you can find a link to YouTube, and our entire programs are pretty much up there now for you to see if you've missed it, and particularly you might like to pass that information on to members of your family or friends who don't normally get to see the broadcast here in Oamaru. So once again, our thanks to the team, and thank you for watching 45 South Television. Good evening.